Hello there. Well, you might remember that when Grey Matters channel first started, I did some videos about retirement, and I did promise that I would be speaking to various people about their retirements and why they're retired and what they're doing with their retirements. Well, today is the first of those chats. Welcome to Grey Matters in the studio. Welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generations still matter and looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below if you want to stay in touch with our future content. But right now, Jess Mitchell has been a hairdresser all his working life. He's renowned and respected in the industry and has travelled the world giving talks and demonstrations and doing fashion and hair shows, as well as running his own businesses. But now he's retired. He's stepped away from all that, or has he? Well, I'm delighted to welcome Jess to the studio today.
Good morning, Peter. Nice to see you.
It's been quite a busy career, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. When you look back on things, you wondered how you've actually got into that. But from being an apprentice, thinking about things, and you sort of go through your career, and then you end up in Australia and South Africa and most of Europe and America doing various things with your job and teaching and speaking to other people. You look back on it and think, well, how did that happen? But it's something that now I've retired is the one thing I really miss.
Because you started off at John Taylor's salon in Upminster. That must have been in the 60s, so you would have been a teenager then.
Oh yes, in fact I actually started my career in 1964 in Belfast.
Oh.
My father was promoted with his job and he went to Belfast, and in Belfast the employment rate was pretty poor and I couldn't get a job. Not that I knew what I wanted to do, but it was at the time when Vidal Sassoon, Carnaby Street and all that sort of thing was, and I could see myself as a mod, and I thought
I was a rocker.
No, I can't see you as a greasy boy.
No, and, don't have the hair for it.
I went for a job as an apprentice hairdresser in Belfast, and then had to come home and tell my mum that I was going to be a ladies' hairdresser, which was very good. She thought it was quite a good idea, and then when we moved back to the UK mainland, I started at John Taylor's in Brentwood.
Oh, right.
And then once I sort of qualified, I then went to Upminster and was the manager of the salon in Upminster. Not that I was really a manager, I think I was just a bloke who opened the door and what have you.
Because you lived in Gravesend, so I mean, I would imagine most people there sort of worked on the docks and things.
Yeah, well, I was born in Gravesend, and all my family were seafaring.
Right.
And my grandfather was a tuggy, as they were called. Yeah, he was a chief engineer on a tug, and so it was pretty well sort of made that I was going to sort of join the family business, as it were, the tugs. Because back in the early and late 60s, the work on the river, the lightermen and that sort of thing all died.
You ended up working for Glenby International in London, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Was that the point where you thought, actually, I don't just want to be a run-of-the-mill hairdresser, there's more to it?
I think right back from the beginning, when I used to do competitions, I used to win a few competitions in London and hairdressing competitions, and I thought I want more than just standing in working in a salon. And then I fortunately found a job where I was working in Regent Street, and again being a naive sort of I was first married then, sort of 23, and your education suddenly changes, because when you're in the suburbs, what you think is fashionable is sort of 2 years behind what people in London are doing. And I turned up working in the salon at Regent Street looking like a real country bumpkin, with the way that people were dressed and the way people behaved and all that sort of thing. So it was quite a bit steep learning curve.
Culture shock. Absolutely,
yes. I was still in flares and platform shoes.
I still am.
Which was definitely in for a dig. But then, because once you start working in that environment, it's a big company. It had a big PR company, and we used to do sort of television shows and fashion shows where lots of celebrities would be watching and that sort of thing, and we would be behind stage doing the hair, so these girls would go out on stage, and then you'd have photo shoots to do, because there would be shoots for Miss Selfridge that would go out as publicity things, so you'd have to go and start at 5 o'clock in the morning and go on till sort of 10 o'clock at night. But it was all part of, fun.
You've already alluded to the fact, I mean, you travelled the world. I mean, you did the States, you did South Africa, and Paris featured a lot. I mean, those must have been fun times.
Yes, I mean, we used to go to Paris twice a year, Margaret and I, and there would be fashion shows and there would be meetings and that sort of thing, and you get to meet a lot of people and make lots of friends. And it was very nice, because at one time there wasn't anywhere in the world that I couldn't call up and get a bed for the night, which was quite nice. But I mean, Paris was nice because we had a hotel that I could just ring up, and Adele, the concierge, would find me a room. So those sort of things. I think we had about 16 years of doing that, and we were there 2, possibly 3 times a year, working and sort of doing committee meetings and doing various things with the industry itself. Again, it's one of those things that you miss.
Say that is the element of it you miss, because you're like me, you're a, dare I use the word, septuagenarian, but we are in that bracket, aren't we? And people would say, well, it's about time you hung up your scissors and stuff, but you can't quite give that up, can you? I mean, you are officially retired, but
yes.
But
unfortunately, when I closed the salon down, the problem was I'd been doing clients' hair for sort of 30, 35 years, and one particular family, I was on the 4th generation of their family. So you did mum, the daughter, and then the granddaughter, and then the granddaughter's children, and you can't say, well, thanks very much for supporting me all these years, but I'm off now, because women don't like changing their hairdresser.
No.
It's trust, and if they trust what you can do, finding someone else to do what you want to do is difficult. So I have a number of clients that have told me that I'm not allowed to retire. So once a week I have to go and see them, and which is quite nice. They make me a cup of tea now, rather than I make them one. So it's much more of a social event rather than
yes. I mean, when you retired and you still do, looking after these clients of yours, I mean, how does that dovetail into being retired? Did you plan it, have to plan it, or does it just organically happen?
I think it was organically happened. I really only do 2 days a week now, on a Friday and Saturday, and that would be when I would be normally be busy in the salon. Because in the latter stages I was running the business, I did very little in the salon apart from those 2 days for clients that wanted. So it was quite a good transition to come out of the business and still carry on and go and see them and have a cup of tea and that sort of thing. But I just wasn't allowed to retire from them.
Was there a mental adjustment for when you stopped working and took on retirement?
Yes. There was a big thing, and what is very strange, it's your ego,
right?
Which is very strange, because when you're fully involved in an industry, and you're getting press releases, you're getting people come interview you, you're doing various people and doing things. When that all stops, you suddenly think, I wonder what they think of me. I'm not being there. And yes. Now no one knows who I am now. The whole thing has changed, and the key people have changed and that sort of thing. But it was tricky to start with, because my ego was dented, as it were.
I had absolutely no problems, because I've always been inherently lazy. So so not having to go to work was brilliant for me. It was like being on holiday the whole time, and I mean, that's 6 years for me now. And then when lockdown came, it was even better because it took away all the reasons I had to do anything else, you know, apart from start this channel. But I mean, what do you do with yourself now?
Well, I've got a couple of hobbies. I like my garden, and so when lockdown came, I was able to spend a lot of time sort of doing the garden. I quite enjoyed doing that and seeing how they've gone now in the garden. So that was good. And also I like shooting.
Right. It's rifle shooting.
Rifle and pistol shooting.
Right.
Yeah. So I belong to 3 gun clubs now.
Right.
And I've, much to my wife's disgust, I've got, I think, about 10 or 12 firearms in the gun cupboards. She doesn't like guns, and when I get them out to clean them, "You do that somewhere else."
How many guns do you need?
Exactly.
Yes. You can only fire one at a time. Yeah.
That was my mother as well when I used to collect records. How many do you need? Haven't you got enough yet? Well, you never have enough, do you?
I think this is really interesting, and I'm sure there's people out there that are thinking and are worrying about retirement, and this was the whole reason for starting this series on retirements, because if you're coming up to it, there is a certain nervousness, what's going to happen, can I financially survive, and so on. I think it's always helpful to get the experiences from people that have retired. You're still here, you're still fit and healthy, you're not on the breadline, you're not living under a flyover, you know, life goes on, and I think that is what people need to realise.
Yeah,
it doesn't stop just because you retire. Jess, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us in the Grey Matter studio.
Are we finished now?
Yeah. It flies by, doesn't it? But we have actually got another video to make for you, which will be coming out maybe in a week's time, or a week after this one comes out, and be more about that later. But thank you, Jess, very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, keep on retiring.
I'll try.
Well, that's it for now. Thank you for joining us. There is more to come. We're going to be looking at what it's like to be getting old. Jess and I have got plenty to say on that matter, I'm sure. So join us in the future again. And in the meantime, thanks for joining Grey Matters. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you again another time. Bye for now.